Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Blitz Growth. Super excited to have an awesome guest. We go back a little bit and have worked on some awesome projects together, but I'm going to introduce Mitch and he's going to drop a lot of value bombs in so many different areas of YouTube, influencer marketing, and all these things. But yeah, Mitch and I go way back into the days of building Noah Kagan's OkDork YouTube channel, where we had a ton of learnings, which Mitch is going to go into. And then today we're also going to focus on how Mitch builds the OkDork brand, audience, and now how he also helps Appsumo create awesome influencer marketing partnerships to help scale the Appsumo brand. So Mitch, thank you so much for joining.
Awesome to be here, Jack. Great intro. Thanks. I'm excited to chat with you a little. We talk the majority of time on Slack, so good to be on the Zoom.
I know, man. It's crazy looking at people and talking to them now.
Right.
All right. So I'm going to take it back to the beginning so that everybody can kind of get a bit of an idea of who you are and what you do. But give us your sales pitch, kind of like summarize yourself in one sentence as to what value you provide to people when you're maybe, networking, or you're chatting to someone at a bar, or you're talking to someone else on the team and introducing yourself. What's your kind of like elevator pitch?
Sales pitch, elevator pitch. So funny thing about that is I actually think like one of life's greatest hacks is to not have to sell yourself. Right. And so I don't really ever think about like, oh, how am I going to sell myself to this person or whatever. I just always try to figure out what is important to that person just so we can connect as people. But as an aside, there's like the Velcro theory for meeting new people. It's like you kind of just throw a bunch of things out there, see what sticks and like where you're going to connect on. So depending on who I'm talking to, I just say I do marketing in a software company, specifically help run an influencer marketing team at Appsumo. And over the past have worked with an entrepreneur to grow his content channels.
Nice. Well, I really want to dive into the story of that because I know there's something there about how you actually started working with Noah. And I've talked to Noah a few times, and he always has interesting stories about how he finds the people that he works with, and a lot of them are very unique. But what was your in for getting connected with Noah and then starting to work with him on all his OkDork stuff?
Yeah, I guess he does have a way of. I think that's just kind of the power of having, leverage of the internet and putting content out there over several years. You just form connections. And so for me, I had listened to his podcast for a while and found myself, I lived in Chicago, then moved to Austin like 3.5 years ago and started a marketing agency. And on the side, I was just kind of volunteering, looking to give back to the community. That's always been a big part of my life. And at around the same time, I heard on the podcast, I think he was talking about his sumo charity ride. So I just hit him up and I was like, yo, if you need sponsors, would love to help out. And, I wasn't looking to, start working with him or anything. It was just sort of, he needed this thing. I liked his podcast, so made the offer. And long story short, did that. And then he offered me a job at the end of that. And at the time I was still working on the marketing agency. So respectfully declined, but we just stayed in touch. Then a few months later, he hit me back up again. And he's like, hey, what if it wasn't just overall at the company? It was like, what if you come work with me personally, help grow the YouTube channel, podcast, email list, blog, all those things. I was like, oh yeah, that sounds amazing. So that's where we started. This was like 2.5 years ago-ish.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And then, so you said the main goals were growing the podcast, growing the YouTube channel. Over the last 2 years, what have been some of the best strategies for the growth of those two things for Noah?
Yeah. So one thing we realized early on, we didn't have a good overall goal. We were doing this total audience metric, which was just an aggregation of the podcast, the social channels, email lists, etc. And it was very hard to see what levers we could pull to have specific outcomes towards that goal, just because there's so many different channels. And so then we decided, okay, which one can we go all in on? And decided that YouTube was that channel. I had played around with video a little bit, and Noah's had the channel for a while. And so figured we'd go there. And then it was very clear to be like, okay, here are the things that we could actively do to control the metric. And then picked a goal at the end of 2020 was to get to 100,000 subscribers, and tried a bunch of things. We tried things like giveaways, embedded in using our email list to point towards everything towards YouTube. And at the end of the day with YouTube, as with a lot of the platforms, it's hard to win outside of the platform, right? And so we just started to look just on the platform. And with YouTube specifically, once we optimized for basically two things, CTR, the click-through rate, who's actually starting to watch your video, and the average view duration. So if they click it and they watch the majority of it, YouTube rewards you with more viewers, and with more viewers come more subscribers.
Okay. And so what sort of tests were you guys doing to improve those click-through rates and those watch completions?
Yeah. So at first we're just kind of like, oh, we'll have a video idea and just record the video. And hopefully at the end of it, we're like, okay, what should we call it? And hopefully it does, we come up with a clever title and there's good click-through rate. Turns out that's not a great strategy. And the people who do YouTube the best, when you study channels like Colin Samir or any of these other big YouTubers, they don't actually start to record anything or outline anything until they come up with the title and what the thumbnail will look like. So we kind of just changed our whole process to start with that, begin with the end in mind sort of thing. And we'll have and put a lot more time and energy into the thought process behind it. So I think this is applicable to whether you have a YouTube channel or if you're putting out any sort of content. If you can't come up with an email subject that people are going to open, then what's the point of the email? If you can't come up with a blog post title that is going to catch people's eyes, then what's the point of the blog post? So we incorporated into our system. Well, one, we helped grow a team. So brought on Jeremy as the producer of the channel, and a few more video editors and a couple other people. And so part of the process is we spent a lot of time thinking each week what is on video ideas. And then we'd get some external people too to pitch us ideas. And we start to see immediately the CTR goes up, and with that, the subs would follow.
Nice. No, super interesting that you look at the title first and then producing the content. I think that's super valuable, and not many people do that at all. The other question would be,
there were. Sorry, I was just gonna say earlier on there were many times where it's just like, oh yeah, we could do that, and then we implemented that, and we're just like, oh, what would the title or thumbnail be? And we're like, actually don't know. So like we have to scrap it, and it forces us to come back with like more sub arguments and more clarity, really.
So the other big factor in this is how much of an impact was the SEO in terms of your brainstorming and ideas for coming up with content? Because I know some people are very SEO heavy with YouTube. They're like, it's the search engine still. You've got to, please the algorithm by making content based on SEO. Other people are like, no, it's an entertainment channel. You just need to entertain people, and then the views and subscribers will come from that. How do you balance that?
Yeah, it's so interesting you bring up SEO, and I guess it ultimately depends on your goals, right? If you're looking to organically rank just to a blog post or something outside of YouTube, maybe SEO would be good. But we came into it thinking like, okay, what do people want? Let's look at and play the SEO game. And it turns out that actually was hurting when we were optimized for keywords in SEO. Those hurting the channel in terms of subscribers and average view duration, because when you look and you could break down the sources, and the highest average view duration was, one, anybody who has notifications turned on, you're super fans, that makes sense. Two, people coming from browse, and then you go down all the way to the very bottom was Google search, and external they call it. And so it makes sense if people are just in a real quick searching for something in particular, they're fast forwarding through the video and they don't watch the whole thing. So if we find something, we more so look at like topic wise in general, this is a big topic versus specific keywords.
Got it. And is that also, so that's search engine in terms of Google, is that also encompassing, is that the same stance you take on YouTube SEO? So it's like, titles, tags, descriptions, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, we definitely were over sort of tagging and thinking about, optimizing all things search early on, and then found that like when we'd stopped doing that, it didn't really make a difference. So I think part of the process, we still do a handful of tags or whatever we used a couple of the tools, but I think TubeBuddy or vidIQ might have a functionality where you can just auto tag a few things. But yeah, like if we were to look at our time each week as like 100 units of time, and we're spending all these units of time trying to over optimize just a bland video, and we changed that to say like, okay, let's just think of a really good idea and then lead with that, and then that proved to be like very helpful for us.
Super interesting. Yeah, so short answer is it's an entertainment platform, not a search engine.
Yeah.
Okay, so a few questions here. So what has been the most popular content you've created for YouTube? Or give me some kind of formulas for what you've seen as trending as the most popular content that you've made. It doesn't have to be Noah's channel.
So I think overall what we found with Noah's channel, and just in general, you'll see is this like content or hype hijacking, right? So you look at Mr. Beast anything, and people are doing Mr. Beast, team breakdown. We've done them on our channel, how he makes, $100 million or whatever. And you just take popular thing and you do a spin on it. You can put the title or the thumbnail rather to look kind of similar to that. And so you're kind of bringing in that audience. YouTube does a really good job of showing it to that channel's audience if it resonates. The tricky part with that is, for us, we were like, okay, that works. And then we'll do all these other YouTubers making money. But they're kind of, when you bring in that audience to watch one of our videos, then the next video we put out is, just like a generic business type video. The Mr. Beast audience is like, wait, where's the Mr. Beast stuff? And so overall it hurts your engagement rates, which I think we learned the hard way. So I think that being strategic about how you're going to ride these waves of what's popular, you can see things like, that's topical in news of different, the Squid Game stuff, or anything like Elon or Tesla that gets really popular. So as long as you make it similar to the content that you're going to be putting out in the future, I think it's fine. Yeah. And quite effective rather.
Yeah, we've interviewed a few YouTube people actually, and they were saying creating your content buckets, creating your themes, and then breaking it into like, not even that many, 2 to 4 themes of types of videos, and really sticking to, if someone was to come to your channel, would they be expecting the next video they see if they hit next or something? Because they were saying one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people make is they just jump around too much with their content. And so it's very hard to get consistent watchers if you are creating content that they might only be interested 1 in 10 videos from. Right.
And having a process to find those. So for example, when we were coming up with our content buckets, looked a lot at Graham Stephan's channel. He has really good core defined sort of themes and just repeats it. It makes it easier for him, makes it easier for the audience to know what to expect. And also, I also think this company Slidebean does a really good job of content buckets. You could check out their YouTube channel and you could just see they do these company forensics. They do these more topicals of like news sort of breakdowns, and it's good. I think it's great to draw inspiration from other channels, even better to draw inspiration from completely other industries.
Hey guys, we put a bunch of effort into making great content for this YouTube channel, so please hit subscribe, leave us a comment, hit like, and tell a few friends about it.